Charles, we appear to have a mess with the Zohran, not to be confused with that Adam Sandler movie. How are you tonight, Charles?
I'm doing well, Jason. Thanks for asking. Pleasure to be back with you. I'm going to call this guy Zoltan, Zoltan the Insignificant, because I didn't know some of his positions until really this morning. This idiot has said that he's going to tear down one financial center, One World Financial Center, and replace it with affordable housing. Now, first of all, who owns
Yeah,
one?
how can he just do that?
Right, and this person is a complete. If he studied for the rest of his life, he'd be a moron. I mean, it's ridiculous what he's talking about, and it's shame on the city electorate, for letting this happen. I mean, this guy is obvious. He's not qualified to be an intern in AOC's office.
Yeah.
You know,
You
and
know how
and
old
to
he
make
is?
33, yeah.
Exactly. He's a
And so
plant.
of course he is. I mean, the city budget, from memory, I think is around $100 billion a year. You know, and how many employees does the city have? How many retirees does the city have? How much
Thousands.
property does it? It's preposterous that this guy would be mayor, and he might be mayor for more than one term, God forbid. So this is a real mess. And I think it's
Yeah.
a mess I actually think it's a mess for the Democratic Party. I've seen some articles to that effect. I mean, the people at Columbia University, I think his father is a professor at one of these universities, and his mother is this filmmaker. Um, yeah, there are people in New York who obviously support even his crazy radical left views. But the people, who've been patient, like take J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan is the best run bank in the world, I would argue. And it's made a commitment to keep its headquarters in New York City. I would leave immediately if I were Jamie Dimon. I'd just say, look, this is the final straw. We dealt with DeCrazio. We've dealt with, Mr. Moonbat, Eric Adams, but this is the final straw. New York has a jihadist target on its back. That every September 11th, they're going to try, some crazies will decide they want to try to do it again. If not then, on the anniversary of the first attempt. You have businesses that they're being treated as if, you could just go into a business and steal as much money as you want. I have a friend, I don't know if he's still alive, who was I think he was vice chairman of Citibank, and now he's had a hedge fund for a long time. But he told me that Charlie Rangel, without an appointment, came into his office, just barged right into his office, put his feet up on his desk, and said, I need to walk out of here with $500,000 today. And the guy looked at him and said, what are you talking about? He said, I can make trouble for you. I can make a lot of trouble for you. I mean, that is the attitude these people
Didn't
have.
Eric Adams just give that guy the key to the city, Charlie
Yeah,
Rangel?
exactly. I think maybe. I don't know if he's still alive, Charlie Rangel.
But posthumously, I think they did. Charles, here's another great example of Zohran Mamdani's excellent instincts. He told his mother to turn down the Harry Potter movie. And he rapped for the Disney film. I mean, this is just such a ridiculous idiot, this guy.
Yeah, it's like that. We've done the movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Being there, putting Chauncey Gardner in, and at the end of the movie, the elite in D.C. are seriously considering making this guy the president of the United States. I mean, this is really the system saying, you thought elections mattered. Guess what? They don't. This guy is a limited hangout. He's bad. How many other people like him have been inserted into positions of great power? I would start with Barack Obama. I'd think about George W. Bush. I'd certainly think about Bill Clinton. And how much farther back do we want to go? And take for example, that crap weasel, lying lawyer, Elizabeth Warren. The fact that she still has a seat in the Senate boggles my mind. And God forbid, if she's collecting a pension from Harvard, Yet another reason to shut Harvard down. But yeah, how many people are there like that? And you saw that, I don't know if you saw this, but Joe Rogan had Bernie Sanders on, and it did
I
not
did
go
see
well.
that.
It
Didn't go
did
well for
not.
Bernie.
The pitch did not go well on climate change. I mean, he just dismantled Bernie, and Bernie had, he just couldn't say anything. He had nothing to come back with. Right. So,
The thing that bothered me a little bit about, first of all, Joe Rogan handled it very well. And anybody who, like Bernie Sanders style person who goes on there thinking they're dealing with a comedian or a talk show host obviously doesn't understand Joe Rogan. But something that they both did that I didn't like was that they would say, well, something everyone can agree on is that we've got to have public school. I'm kind of rethinking that given what's been going on for the past 5 years. But what's interesting is they spent a lot of time. Another thing that everybody can agree on, according to those two, is that healthcare is something that every civilized country in the world should just give to people. And I also don't agree with that, or at least I don't agree with the approach that they were describing, because they were talking about it for about a half an hour before Joe Rogan brought up the point that we first need to regulate some of this corporate food that allows them to put poison in the food that's making everybody fat and advertising all this unhealthy food. And I mean, I would be less inclined to pay for people's doctors and more inclined to have my tax money go to nutritional education so that everybody's not so fat and stupid.
Well, exactly. And people used to deride the notion that in public schools you had home economics as a course. I think it's essential to have home economics. I think you should begin teaching it in nursery school, because this idea that somehow you're going to leave college, with a degree in gender literacy or some ridiculous thing like that.
Even political science, a lot of worthless stuff.
Whatever, and then you're going to have to have an apartment or something. You live in your parents' basement and expect your mother to have food on the table. I mean, we by not teaching basic things in school, whether it's private or public school, it's not. I'm not handy. You're very handy, but I just my father was extremely handy. At an early age, I could never do what he wanted me to do, and I just finally said, "Fuck it."
I installed a new ceiling fan, Charles. That was dangerous.
Yeah, I'd have to think about who to ask to do that for me. But anyway, so you learn what you're good at, what you're not good at. But at least you should be exposed to it. But we're churning out people out of our system who are not capable of actually working. I remember during my career working for other people, I performed best when I was scared that I wouldn't be able to complete the project. That unleashed in me the
pressure makes you strive.
It made me thrive, actually. So but I got to a point where I said, I've had enough of this pressure. It's actually kind of boring what I'm doing now. So I'd stopped. But
tennis is much more fun.
Tennis is great. Skiing, I'm even thinking about going to New Zealand for skiing. I didn't realize they had such great skiing in the summer. But anyway, back on the public school system and Zohran, I mean, it's not as if we have a humming top, whirring top in New York City. I mean, I don't even want to think about what it's like now, but when I left, it was beyond repair. I mean, it was really meat and fitting. I called a car to pick me up at 7 p.m. to take me to the airport. And I got downstairs with my shit. I didn't want to be downstairs for very long because I didn't want to get mugged. So I got there right as the car was there. And to my right, I took pictures and sent them to you. There was one bum in a wheelchair asleep. And across the way, another bum had built a house out of garbage that he was sleeping in. And my driver was too scared to pick me up, and he came across to another place. I recognized where he was and took my stuff, got into the car, and the guy said, "I'm sorry, I don't want to be over there. 6 months ago, I was shot." Like, Jesus
wow.
Christ. Let me get out of this neighborhood as soon as possible.
Oh, but we could have free health care to take care of the gunshot surgery rather than, I don't know. I mean, listen, public school seems to be like a just a big UFC fight these days. I don't know. It's interesting, Charles. I was down at the courthouse today, and coming back, I'm pretty sure I walked right by Ella Emhoff. It's too bad I wasn't on a live stream. I would have spoken to her, but she's got very distinctive tattoos all over her arms, and I'm pretty sure it was her.
Yeah, I mean, she's the definition of fugly. I mean, it's just ridiculous that she got a modeling contract immediately. You know, and I think during the transition after Biden, quote, won, but before he was inaugurated, I believe she got a modeling contract. I mean, you have friends, I'm sure, you have relatives who are models, but I have a number of friends who are models. There are a lot of beautiful people on Earth. Modeling companies.
Not her.
Exactly. How did she get a model? Why didn't, the Senate parliamentarian or whoever's the ethics watchdog say, you can't do this? You can't give a modeling contract to somebody who's going to break the lens of every camera she's in front of. You just can't do that.
Well, they have insurance for that, They probably don't want to get investigated themselves. Actually, you're reminding me, Charles, right before we came on air here, you sent me a pretty important thing. And, I've been pretty quick to criticize. Hey, where'd my mouse go here? We seem to have lost mouse control.
Cat got it.
Cat got the tongue. Oh, the computer has totally frozen. CNN just crapped out. That's never happened before. CNN just totally crashed the computer. A pop-up came up here on CNN, and the computer has frozen. Wow, well, that's never happened before.
CNN is frozen. I mean, CNN was humiliated, and the New York Times were humiliated at this press conference, the NATO press conference.
Yeah. Let me just get this back here. We got to have that back.
Sure.
But we should talk about that NATO press conference. I thought it was we have more to discuss with Zohran, but we should pivot for a moment to what appears to be, Charles, and again, credit where credit is due. I was quite skeptical of what President Trump did by bombing Iran, but as we get a few days away from it, it seems like it might be shaping up to be an historic and historically successful military tactical operation, unlike anything we've ever seen before. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I just read Seymour Hersh's piece. He tends to have pretty good insight. I guess he's pushing 90 at this point, and he's been around the block. He has a lot of good sources, internal sources. And his piece mirrors what Trump is saying and what others are saying. That basically they took the approach that it was dangerous, that it was impossible to get to the depth of where the enriched uranium was. And Hersh talks about there was some wealthy, I guess, Swiss or German guy who was the inspiration for this raid. They figured out that they could make it impossible to get, that the enriched stuff was there, and rather than destroying it, just make it impossible to get to it, which is what they apparently did. Echoing that, what's going on here apparently is that Witkoff is meeting with the Iranian counterparts next week. And I thought through the whole exercise, because I remember vividly the hostage taking in 1979. That was, my second year of business school. We were all wondering if the world was going to blow up. Then the raid, Carter's stupid raid with the helicopters that didn't work.
I bet you the CIA sabotaged that because George Bush was in there and they had it in for Carter the whole time. Desert Eagle, Operation Desert Eagle, I think that was called.
Yeah, could be. But the point is that back then, every day, death to America, death to Israel, death to America, and for a long time now, Iran we've done diabolical things in Iran, but they've done diabolical things sponsoring these various terrorist groups around the world. Of course, we've sponsored terrorist groups too. But, some say we created Al-Qaeda and ISIS. But the fact of the matter is, during this recent 12-day war, I didn't see the Iranian response as being that rough. And in particular,
you spotted that at first, and that's what I mean. There's been little indicators that have come up as the days have gone on. Like today at the NATO conference, they were saying Iran admits the whole thing was destroyed. So that's a pretty good admission. And we have some viewers in Israel who I've been DMing with a little bit, and one of them tells me last night was the first in 11 days that they got a full night's sleep without being awakened by an air raid siren. So that's another one of those type of market indicators that seem to indicate that this was very effective.
Yeah, and for Saudi Arabia, I've seen it. I think I went to Saudi Arabia, I think 2 or 3 times, I forget which, but definitely 2, maybe 3. But when you get into discussions, and I was with, I'm not going to say who I was with exactly, but I was with some pretty powerful people there, and they loathe the Shia. I mean, the leadership, the Sunni leadership. It's not going to be easy to smoke that peace pipe. So the fact that the Revolutionary Guards might have had nuclear weapons, and there are elements in the Shia who loathe the Saudis, was deeply alarming. And I suspect what's going to happen here is we may actually get peace in the Middle East because of all this. And instead of being a chaotic mess, it could become a very important, large market. Both the Iranian economy has been under sanctions since 1979. Imagine what would happen if they could come up with a peace framework that makes sense to the Iranians. Imagine how much diaspora capital will come back into that country. And then if you can forge a peace with Israel, my God, I mean, it really could be spectacular. And who's going to be the biggest beneficiary of that?
Us.
Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner.
Well, all right. But the U.S. in general, I think, would be a pretty big. I mean, it's again the energy at that press conference at the NATO thing was kind of unbelievable. I mean, it just again, all this crap that CNN and the New York Times are saying. What's her name? This reporter who was the same one who had the Hunter Biden laptop story, Bertrand.
Natasha Bertrand.
She's terrible. She also was involved in sinking Andrei Telizhenko, so she's extremely dishonest and an all-around terrible POS, as you might say.
Yes, in French. POM, piece of impaired. But so I think we'll see. I mean, in our last broadcast, we were both of us very concerned of the direction of the world. And it's gotten to the point now where I don't worry at night anymore because I just say, it's out of my control. And I'll wake up in the morning and most likely something's going to have changed significantly. And that seems to be the case here. People were worried. I was worried that if this failed, if we were going to go down regime change, it was going to fail. And that could spell ultimate doom for the Trump presidency. Instead, it looks like what he did worked. And he did it against the best recommendations of a lot of people, including MAGA people. And it seems to have worked. And people are going to, I think, grow to realize the MAGA base. I saw a poll that said the MAGA base approved this by like 85%, something like that. So I think this may actually re-energize this presidency. Yeah. And it may, Russia is on a daily basis taking more villages because this mess in Ukraine is a mess and has been a mess and was stupid and was done to make sure that the truth didn't come out about how much the Biden family had grifted off the oligarchs in Ukraine. So we need to understand that piece of the puzzle. And it could mean, this success, if it leads to peace, could hasten peace in Ukraine, what's left of Ukraine. And, Trump is playing that one very well, I think.
He mentioned that at the NATO conference as well. He said that Putin had called him asking if he could help with the whole Iran thing. And Trump said, no, I need help with you, it was pretty funny. Did you see this video, Charles, of Zelensky at NATO? He gets out of this kind of limo, and it looks to me like he's wearing, people are like, oh, he's wearing a suit, but look at the jacket. It looks like it's got a bulletproof vest under there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think he's wearing anti-assassination, who's his haberdasher, I wonder.
It's ridiculous. No, he's ridiculous. He's you put this Zoltan, send him over to make him president of Ukraine. It's the same script.
That's a good idea. Send all of his voters there too. They love Ukraine.
Well, I was amazed actually in the piece I read this morning to learn that in New York there are 1 million Muslims in New York City. 1 million. I didn't realize it was that big.
All in Times Square.
Yeah, all of Columbia.
Wearing the keffiyeh and, screaming at people. But the other thing that I was going to say before this CNN crashed the computer, you had sent me just before we came on air here, I got to give credit where credit is due. Pam Bondi is finally doing something good. She's suing every judge in the District of Maryland, I think. Yeah. So, that's good. These judges are all sitting up there high and mighty, kind of weaponizing the courts. And this is good that they're getting sued. I said, it looks like it's judge suing season. I don't even have a pair of snake boots that fit. So we got to get in on that action.
Yeah. So, when somebody abuses his discretion, somebody's in power, abuses his or her discretion, that needs to be punished. Human beings, if they, and myself included, if you say, look, you're never going to be punished for anything wrong that you may do, right? You get cocky and arrogant, and you do really stupid shit. And you should get up. There needs to be some, if you don't have a sense of decency. Yeah, if you don't have an internal sense of decency and honor and morality, you're a criminal.
But even if you do have that sense of decency, Charles, you just said earlier in the broadcast, when you had this pressure of not knowing if you could you got to have tension in any kind of thing, or you never go anywhere. You just get fat and lazy. And when there is that tension, if the judge knows, hey, I better not abuse Jason's constitutional rights, or he's going to give me an Article 3 notice, and then that could get me removed as a judge. So let's play fair. If there's no way in hell that could happen, and you're, let's say, John Colt, and you can, jam up the likes of Bernard Kerik and me, and this becomes basically your whole entire business of what you do for your whole career, and then some pipsqueak like me gets in there and starts making noise. He almost appears to be getting annoyed that I'm saying anything about what appears to be obvious corruption based on public domain evidence that I've seen that other people might draw other conclusions from. But I think something's going to happen, and I think, like I said, it's judge suing season.
I think you're right. I hope you're right. I think Chief Justice Roberts needs to resign. He is that Obamacare decision. The more I think about it, and as we watch our healthcare system, I think it's been destroyed. He was the author of that decision. It was a disastrous decision. Why did he? And it was as if he'd written it to be decided the other way, but he last minute make corrections to have it support Obamacare and save, and cement Obama's reelection opportunity. So, the Supreme Court needs to be rejiggered. And I would love to see in his final years Clarence Thomas be the Chief Justice. That would be something. But he's getting pretty old, though.
We're getting pretty close to the end of our segment here, Charles. We're going to be continuing in the First Amendment Forum. People can join us on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. People who follow me on X and are subscribed there will get the sponsor-exclusive content after the live broadcast, because Elon Musk is too busy sending rockets to Mars to allow sponsor-exclusive live streams on X. And also for everybody who was kind enough to go to Odyssey, I'm really happy that people are supporting Odyssey, the independent technology platform that really was quite helpful in enabling freedom of speech unfortunately, anything good like that lets people have the First Amendment becomes the target of these types of attacks. So they've lost their payment processor, and for the past 3 months, people have been watching the sponsor-exclusive content for free on Odyssey, which has been my gift to the viewers, but I can't keep the show going without your support and sponsorship. So please select one of the other sponsorship platforms and join us. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes, Charles. I'm looking forward to more discussion in the First Amendment Forum. We've got more to talk about with Zohran and NATO and all kinds